Hello everybody, welcome back to Read with Rithwik. Today's story is The Inch Prince. Long ago, in a remote village in Japan, there lived an old couple named Mr. and Mrs. Ping. Their home was a tiny house at the foot of a mountain beside a rushing river. The Pings loved it. Every day, Mr. Ping weeded the beans and the rest of the plants in the vegetable plot. Meanwhile, Mrs. Ping fed the chickens and all the other animals. As dusk fell, the couples watered the sweet-smelling flowers in the beautiful garden. The Pings had everything they could possibly want. Well, almost. I wish we had some children, sighed Mrs. Ping sadly. One evening, so do I, said Mr. Ping, but only a teeny children could fit in our house. In our tiny house. We hardly have room for the cat. Small things can be special too, said his wife. Maybe, said Mrs. Ping, but they need to be the smallest children in the world to fit in here. I wouldn't care if they were just 1 inch tall, said Mr. Ping. At that very moment, a fairy happened to fly past. She overheard what Mr. and Mrs. Ping were saying. She noticed their healthy plum vegetables growing away in the sun. Not mentioned, they contained animals and their enormous blossoming flowers. These two are obviously very good at looking after everything around them, thought the fairy. They deserve to be looked after too. With that, she hovered over the Ping's tiny house, waved her wand and whispered some magic words. Jumping beans and flying fish, give these folks their dearest wish. Soon afterwards, Mr. and Mrs. Ping became the proudest of a teeny-weeny boy. In fact, he was so teeny, he was just 1 inch tall. Well, we want a small child. Isn't he sweet? Let's name him Ishan Bushy, said Mrs. Ping. It means 1 inch boy. And we could call him Issy for short, said her husband. Very short, he added with a smile. Time passed quickly for the Pings and the new son. Each year, their vegetables grew more plump. Their animals grew bigger and fatter. And the flowers grew so tall they almost fell over. But Izzy never grew any than 1 inch tall. Maybe if I stand on tiptoes. Izzy was so tiny, the Pings had to find new use for everyday object. A dry pea made a great ball. Go! A bottle top for from Mr. Ping's homemade rice wine became a bathtub. Mrs. Ping's button collection was put to use as dinner plate. One of the shoelaces from Mrs. Ping's pink walking boots was turned into a scarf, and every night Izzy curled up to sleep in his little matchbox bed. When he was 18 years old, it was time for Izzy to leave home. "I'll get a job in the city," he announced confidently. His parents gave him a free present for his journey. He had a rice bowl for a boat, 2 wooden chopsticks which made a fine pair of oars, and a sword to defend himself. Actually, Mrs. Ping's sharpest needle. Izzy set off on his long journey down the river, past sleepy little villages, between tall mountains, and through walled market towns, around wild woods, until he reached the bustling city. Izzy clambered ashore and scuttled along the crowded streets. I'll ask the Emperor for a job," he thought. That's if I don't get squashed first." After dodging hundreds of stomping feet, Izzy finally reached the Emperor's enormous place. He strode up to the guards on the gate. Izzy puffed out his chest. "I'd like a job," he declared, politely but firmly. The guards looked down and laughed. "You're teeny," said one with a chuckle. What could a pissqueak like you do?" "I can't run past you for a start," said Izzy. "Hey, where did he go?" He jumped over the guard's foot and darted into the palace before anyone could stop him. In the courtyard, a maid was busy washing the royal clothes. "I like a job," said Izzy. Hee hee, "You're weenie," chuckled the maid. "What can you do?" "I can run past you for a start," Izzy replied. "Hey, where did he go?" He jumped over the maid's soap and sprinted into the palace kitchen. A cook was preparing the royal dinner. "I'd like a job," said Izzy. "Ha!" snorted the cook as he stirred a pot of squidgling cabbage. "You're tiny. What can you do?" "I can run past you for a start," answered Izzy with a grin. "Hey, where did he go?" He swerved around the cook oven and dashed into the next room. Izzy gasped. He arrived at the throne room. He bowed respectfully to the Emperor and the Princess. "I'd like a job, please," said Izzy. "Would you now?" said the Emperor. "He's teeny weeny, Daddy," said Princess Chi-Chi. "What can he do?" "Well, I ran past your guard, your maid, and your cook to get here," said Izzy proudly. "They couldn't stop me." The Emperor thought for a moment. "You can look after Princess Chi-Chi," he said. "She needs a bodyguard." "But Daddy," moaned the prince, "how could he defend me? He's only 1 inch tall." "Small things can be special too," said the Emperor wisely. "You're hired." "Thank you, Majesty." "Thank you, Your Majesty," said Izzy. From then on, Izzy never left the princess' side. He was there in the morning. He was there in the afternoon. He was even there all night. One day, the princess left the palace to visit her aunt far beyond the city. As usual, Izzy was right by her side. After many miles, they came to a dark forest. "I'm scared," said Princess Chi-Chi. "I'll look after you," said Izzy. "What could you do?" quivered the princess. Just then a terrifying roar echoed around the woods. Roar! "Help!" A giant old crashed through the trees. He reached out to grab the princess. "Put her down!" shouted Izzy with all his might. "Or I'll you," growled the old. What could you do? With that, the old scooped up Izzy. I love bite-sized snacks," he said, and popped Izzy in his mouth. Izzy thought quickly. He took his needle sword and pricked the old's tongue. The old let out an ear-splitting howl. "Ow!" The old spat out Izzy and ran off into the woods. "That'll teach him," cried the tiny bodyguard. "Thank you, Izzy," said the princess. "You saved my life." "Hey, look," said Izzy. "The old left his hammer behind." "The legend says that an old hammer is magic," said the princess excitedly. He tried to pick the massive tool, but it was far too heavy. "I wish you were bigger, Izzy," she puffed. "Then maybe you could lift it." Instantly, a cloud of magic stars shot out of the hammer and swept around Izzy. "What's going on?" he cried. Izzy felt something strange happening. His arms seemed to be getting longer, and his legs, in fact, his whole body was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Seconds later, he found himself standing shoulder to shoulder with the princess for the very first time. "I am tall as you," cried Izzy. "The hammer must have granted your wish." The princess fell in love with Izzy, but not because he was tall. She loved him because he was brave. It wasn't long before they got married and lived in a house next to the palace. The house was small, but Princess Izzy and Princess Chi-Chi were happy. They both knew that small things can be special too. The end. Hope you liked the story. Thanks for enjoying my stories. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.